every other nerdy guy you can think of from any show.
All right.
He laughs like the dude from Revenge of the Nerds.
I like a good voice. I'm a big fan of a good voice. I have another group that one of the players in it like loves to do voices, and he's also primarily a dungeon master for all of his other games. So I expect lots of player character voices from you guys.
Well, see, I mean, I don't get me wrong. I like to do voices. I'm not very good at them.
Yeah,
There's
neither
a
am I.
few that I can do really well, which is I basically developed this character around the voice. Like, he was spawned from a voice I could do.
You'll see my voices all tend to like start out different and then end up the same and then end up being my voice. So sometimes I'm
My
great
dwar-
at it, sometimes I'm not.
All my dwarves sound like Scottish guys with brain damage.
Yeah.
I actually started doing dwarves as Russians now instead.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
In my homebrew world, the dwarves are Russians.
I forget what I was trying to do the other day in my Strahd campaign. It was some sort of, it was like, you know, Eastern European
Yeah.
mixed with like a quiet little kid's voice, and it just like my Eastern European accent is usually like loud, boisterous guy. Anyway, just to let you guys know, I did start on the stream, so we're on Twitch and
Oh, we're on Twitch. I did not know.
we're on Twitch and we're on YouTube. It streams to both. I do often have trouble with my streaming and it cuts out. So if anybody else wants to also stream, feel free. I do not have
Do you have your channel link in the
I can definitely send that.
just so I can kind of. Well, actually, if you're gonna be streaming your screen, I don't want to be watching it. Actually, that's probably bad.
Yeah, no, I am sharing my screen. I do sometimes do. I'll probably set it up when we're doing the actual game so that like it's not my screen, that it's like somebody else's screen, so you won't see stuff.
Yeah. Do a second browser like a
Yeah.
Firefox window.
Yeah, right. Okay, so I don't know if any of you guys. I know Dun/Lulu has listened to some of my games, kind of knows how I DM. I don't know if any of the rest of you do, but just to give you an idea, I'm a very flexible dungeon master. I'm not hard and fast about. I'm hard and fast about what you guys want to follow. Like in most of my games, I don't like keep track of food and like things like that. I can, if you'd like me to, if that's the type of game you guys want to do, we can definitely do that. You just have to let me know. I tend to be a little more narrative driven than some other DMs that I know. Doesn't mean you can't wander, but I'm usually trying to tell some sort of story. You might get weird one-off things that happen, but it will hopefully lend into a big arc. I think of my games like the X-Files or Supernatural, or one of those shows where like, you know, you have like individual encounters, but they all sort of contribute to a major arc.
Monster of the Week versus main story arc.
Yeah, right. Like a combination of both. Both those shows sort of did that. So, anybody want to tell me what? Maybe you guys can all tell me a little bit about maybe what you're looking for from the game, and I'll be quiet, and then I'll give like a world overview, and then we can start talking character.
I personally, whatever. I just here for mostly fun. One thing that I always like is when the character, like us as players, get to kind of develop the characters, and our backstories get to tie in to the greater arc a little bit, and you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's really attractive to me as well. I like to be able to, kind of like what you said. I think a good example is foreshadowing, right? We might have a random encounter, and then later on, we're armed with the knowledge from that random encounter that seemed random to understand something else. I really like that kind of narrative, reaching back, bringing it forward, reaching back, bringing it forward. So I'm all for that kind of random, I don't know what happened, it didn't serve the narrative, but it will.
Right.
But I like role play. Obviously, like role
Yeah.
play.
Yeah. I don't know where my character. I know a little bit about my character. I don't know everything about him, so I want him to kind of develop as the story goes.
Yeah,
So
it's good to
that
leave part of that
yeah
mystery, in my opinion.
yeah like I kind of
Alright.
Yeah, Smo.
No problem. Sorry about that.
No problem. What do you?
Man,
I'm
kick
with-
back,
I'm
easy
with-
going. Yeah, as long as we can
Yeah.
develop our characters. I also like games where you have to think. It's not constant carnage.
Yeah.
but some carnage. Some carnage is good.
Yeah.
Just enough carnage.
Carnage is good.
But I'm not a murder hobo.
I do
With Aragroth on the whole character development thing. That's cool. Like, I have a very simple, basic backstory on the character and a general sort of like precise outline of the person, but like I'm totally flex with rolling with whatever the DM's narrative is, trying to go for it and to adapt. That's the excitement for me. Is doing that from the storytelling standpoint.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm not gonna force you into much. There won't be many times that I will make you have one choice for your character. And actually, after this session, I don't really, unless you want advice about your character and what I think, I won't give it. It's your character to create. I try to present story pieces from backstories for every character. So we might start a session and I might just throw some questions and have you do like a theater of the mind flashback at some point too, to sort of build story a little bit.
That's pretty cool, man.
Okay, cool. I think we're all on the same page. It seems like we're all pretty loosey-goosey, which is good. So
It sounds like we all care about story, which is pretty cool.
yeah, which is awesome. And you never know. There are players that just want to do a bunch of puzzles, and there are players that just like want to kill shit and not do any role play and that kind of thing. And the only reason I say that is because my sons, who are 6 and 8, I do a game for them, and they basically just want to kill stuff most of the time. They don't want to do any puzzles or stuff like that. Although they are pretty good with story. My 8-year-old loves story. Cool. All right. So I didn't expect any of you to do this. I basically gave you the backstory sheets and stuff just in case you wanted to look through it. I wasn't requiring you to read it, but I just want to know what types of information did you guys all like? Any of you take a look through the stuff that I posted, or should I start from scratch? Or
I think it'll always be a good idea to start from scratch.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in
Yeah.
that halfling nation, like the one that's kind of broke away. They sound a little bit like gnomes in my world, and that's really attractive to me. So if you could kind of deep dive a little bit into that at some point today, I would really appreciate that.
yeah,
And then
I will try. That I haven't dove into that area myself yet.
Oh, I think you broke up.
break it up.
Maybe it was me.
You're,
No, it was
you're
him.
breaking up a
I'm breaking up a
little
little.
bit.
Yeah, it's because I'm opening a new window.
We're getting audio drop. Yeah, just
All right, can anyone hear me?
I did watch I did watch a
Yeah.
little video you did, like the introductory video.
Okay.
But I have not read. I think you put a couple of documents up. I haven't read those, but just from the video, because my character being coming from a wealthy merchant family, I kind of sounded like Ottawa would have been a good place for him to be from if that worked for the campaign. If
Oh, yeah,
not, maybe another big city like that.
No, that totally works, and I think that it will help you all if you have somebody in the party that's from Adjoa that's sort of familiar with the surroundings.
Uh-huh.
So if Max is sort of nobility or rich, he would come from a portion of Adua called the Castle District,
Okay.
which is basically where all the rich people live.
Yeah.
And sorry, I dropped out there for a minute because I was trying to open a document and my computer was pooping on itself. So I missed anything before what. I'm gonna call you Max now. What Max
That's fine.
said.
Hey, I got a
Oh, now you cut out.
logistical question. I'm looking. Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so in the player list, it's just a logistical and technical question. In the player list on the Foundry,
Mhm.
notice that a couple of the players have their character names next to them, and then other ones don't. Like Aragoth and Lulu don't.
Yeah,
Is that something I need to fix, or
No, I don't think so. I don't know why
I
that
always
is.
just get? I want to
I
know
really-
just because I get bad with referencing people during the game. Like I don't want to call. I'd like to call them by their character name instead of like Aragoth. Like no, it's Max. You know?
Yeah, do you guys
Yeah.
know how that
was-
happens? You guys were able to
ruin
move
the
yours.
immersion? You know what I mean?
Well, I could do something like this on my character sheet though. Like if I'll put in parentheses, Eargroth, and then it should show up in the character list now like that.
I know there's a
help?
way to do it. Like you should be able to like click on it and change it on your own thing. But I was just curious. It's been
Yeah,
a while. I was just
thought
curious as to why.
that- well,
it was.
I can
sorry,
see
didn't mean
his
to distract from the
character.
conversation before, but-
Yeah, I can see his when I
Yeah, I
right
see
click
Aragoth
on
in the player list.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
there we go. Lulu fixed it. There it is. Sapphire. All right.
Yeah, you just
So now we
right
just
click
need
yourself
Max.
and then
What do you mean?
There we go. Just right click on your name in the players list. On the lower left
I
hand
might be
corner,
able
there's
to-
a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
drop
play-
down that comes up.
Player config, right? Yeah, and then just do that.
there,
Yeah,
I did it
perfect.
for you.
Perfect.
I got
Yeah,
you.
sorry. I don't want to distract, but it's
No, no,
it's
it's
one of those
cool.
things like it's a small detail that like ruins the immersion for people sometimes.
Well, and this is
Like-
the stuff. This is the stuff I
like-
feel like we should be talking about, right? Okay, so
Thank you guys.
and sort of an overview of this world for people who don't know much or haven't looked at the document. So the Circle of the World is actually lifted from a group of fantasy novels from a guy named Joe Abercrombie. If you haven't read them, you should read them. They're awesome. And I've basically taken a lot of that and pieces of my favorite television shows and other stuff and kind of mashed it together in this world. This world in general has two kind of superpowers. One is the Union, which is made up of Starkland, England, Midderland, and the other is the Gurkish Empire, who right now controls Kadir, is moving in Cruderia, where
those
halfling
half
nation
are.
is. Yeah. Styria is
The Gurkish-
another
okay.
sort of power in there. You can think of them as like Italy when it was a bunch of city-states. So Styria is like, there's like a league of cities like dukes that kind of try to control everything, but really it's the Talons, which is the biggest city that like is the most important.
Its
city.
realm.
Yeah. Thond is kind
Yeah.
of a non-developed nation, essentially. It's mostly Aboriginal, no big cities. Nobody really goes there for anything. The Doridian Alliance is of my creation. It is basically all of the other races were like marginalized and sort of faced a lot of racial injustice throughout the other nations in the world. So they formed their own nation, essentially. That's kind of a democratic society. The North is, you can think of that as like Norse time, Finland, Sweden, Denmark. Like it's sort of like Viking culture. Like everybody from there is basically a barbarian, like a huge barbarian. The mountains
does
have
that
some giants. Sorry.
does that cause problems? Or people like do people hate that continent or?
I don't want to go so far as to say hate. The Union in the North, actually, at the point wherein the story had just finished sort of having a war. So they're thought of as uncivilized, but and sort of dumb, but they're not. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's just how the rest of the world sort of sees them.
Are there like Goliath stuff up there too?
Yep, there are Goliath up there. There are tribes of Goliaths in the mountains. I even forget what I called them. But there's a portion that in the mountains there are Goliaths, there are Firbolgs, some giants actually up in the mountainsides, and then most of the like what you'd call the Northmen are sort of in this area. If you can see where I'm hovering, like right above England.
Yeah.
And yeah. Oh, thank you, Eric Roth.
That's kings.
And basically, like,
I have a question for the DM whenever you have a chance.
Oh yeah, no, go ahead. I don't want to make this a lecture.
Another technical. No. That's what this is for. So I appreciate it for sure.
Yeah.
Another technical question for you though. I noticed in the journal entries that we don't have access, or at least I don't have access to actually create a journal entry on my character profile.
No one has ever asked me for that.
And,
It
well,
would be nice to have
it's
a
just good for
checkpoint.
like taking notes. Yeah, during game, I'd like to be able to jot down any kind of key critical notes
Yeah,
that you
I'm
or
into
clues
that.
that you give us.
Tell me how to do it.
Yeah.
How do I do it?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. Like I clicked on the journal button and I noticed that it didn't give me the option to create it. And I know that there's an option. There's a way to get to allow your players to be able to create journal entries on their when they log in as a player. So I was just curious if
It
that
would
was something that
probably
you'd be willing to do for us.
Pretty
So that we
good
could
to
take
do
notes.
that now. So if anybody knows how to do that,
Yeah, it should be under settings, configure settings, and then I think it's core settings. There should be player permissions.
Let's see.
Configure permissions, right? So under core settings, there's configure permissions.
Yeah.
And then you go under journal entries and allow players with this role to create new journal entries in the journal sidebar. So you just got to check player, and we can then create journal entries.
Yep, got it.
Save configuration. So yeah, now we can create our own. We can't see any of yours, but we can create our own.
Okay. Yeah,
And I think after you do that, we might have to refresh our page. Oh no, we don't.
pops
Actually,
up.
good entry. All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no
Appreciate
problem.
Maybe you could make a folder for us to see so that we don't. I mean, if we create an entry, does it show up for you, Blake?
Hold her up.
It probably does. Here, I'll create one right now.
It's actually
Max.
that's actually a good idea. Yeah, create a player journal
Yeah, you can do that.
folder.
So I just created one called Max's Notes. I don't know if you can see it.
Yep, I can see it. Oh, whoops, and
Yeah.
I misspelled journals. I have really fat fingers.
How did you create that folder?
He has access to create a folder. He's going to throw our stuff into a folder.
Yep.
That way,
Okay, got it.
it's organized for him. It's not in his way.
Yeah, and we don't have to feel bad if
got
we
it.
want to make 10 of them. Not that I'm going to.
Right. Yeah. No, I appreciate you answering that because
I didn't even know you could do that. So.
Oh, while we're on
It's
technical,
helpful
if you
during-
could
during
re-import my
campaign.
character, that'd be good as well. I added a few things.
Yes, I can do that.
Hey, where's Adjua?
Adjua is in Midderland. And hang on.
Okay. Cool.
I'm gonna zoom in on it in a minute.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I just want to know where I'm from.
Yeah, so you think of this as like the Union, really powerful, really civilized, driven by like typical things that like you would think of like any old European nation was driven by. The Gurkish Empire is almost religious zealotry. They kind of like want to put down all the other religions and spread the word of their. Basically, he's like their king / ruler. His name's Kahul.
Okay.
and they want to spread the word of the Prophet of Kahul.
So is this kind of like a 300 type thing where their king is also a god to them?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Well, their king, and we'll get into it at some point, but their king is actually a former member of something called the Order of the Magi.
Okay.
Or Magi. And there's a whole history of magic in this world where it was limited to a certain number of people for a very, very long time. And these people were called the Order of the Magi. It started with two brothers, Huvens and Kindness, I think his name was. And those two made laws of how people should do magic. And they said, we have two rules. The first rule is you never contact the other side to the demon realm. And the second rule is you never eat human flesh. Right?
Ooh.
And so they made these rules, and they each took on sort of separate apprentices. Huvens took on 12 apprentices. Eventually, those apprentices, they didn't turn on him, but Canidas turned on Huvens, and the apprentices then had to turn on Canidas, and a battle ensued. And then sort of everybody kind of disappeared except for this Kahul. For a while, the Union grew because there was one of those magi called Baez who served as a counselor. This was hundreds of years ago, by the way. Kahul is like hundreds of years old. But he has since disappeared, so he hasn't really been around. Baez hasn't been around, and it's sort of been lost to memory, most of this stuff, for most people. I'll say one more thing. The Far Country is, you can think of that as sort of like the Wild West, right? There's no law. It's kind of a lawless sort of area. Whoever was talking, I lost them a little.
Question.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go.
No, you're good. I just had a question. So Elyaras is very much, I guess, just for the sake of efficiency here, the best way to equate his character is, think of him like an old Native American, right? So like very in touch with nature, not very concerned with other people's religions and their beliefs and that kind of stuff, but very much like a nature Gaia kind of like person, like nature rules all.
Okay.
In this world, where would somebody like him be from? You know, very like old, wise, very grounded to the earth.
So it depends. And we could start getting into character stuff now, because that's sort of my overview of the world in general. So we can talk about like where people are from, and then we can drill in on that. When I first read your sheet, I saw that you had put that you were like a hermit sort of person, that you'd kind of like removed yourself from society, and I thought that you probably would have been somewhere in the Far Country, just because that's where you could get supplies by going in. There are some like frontier towns like the Crease that you could go get supplies from, but like mostly nobody would bother you. However, it's not a particularly lush area. Like if your deity is like the Oak Father, then
right.
You know.
So Elyaras is a wood elf, so very much a nature kind of person.
So I would say then that maybe and you can push back on this, but maybe the hermit part of your character story is something that has just started, or you're probably from there's a whole contingent of wood elves and all sorts of elves in the Doridian Alliance. So it would make sense for you to come from there, and perhaps you're traveling to Midland to visit your idol, Grayson Calder.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
That's a little thin, but we can flesh it out a little more.
Anything that gives any kind of skeleton to it, you know, is enough to help. So.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to know where you're coming from, because if you're coming from the Duridian Alliance, you're very used to like a democratic society where everybody has like a say. Each race elects an official, and those officials from each race like serve on a council that make decisions together, right? So a monarchy is
Elias is very neutral. He's very like he doesn't care about anybody's politics or
right.
religion or anything like that. He's more like nature is what nature is, and good or bad, it is what it is.
All right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay,
I have a technical question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why is my portrait came in as a square without its frame?
Oh, because I didn't do I saw that you did this portrait, so I just didn't redo it.
Oh, okay. I thought it pulls in the portraits from D&D Beyond. That's why.
Did you
portrait frame? I thought came in.
Did you change it?
My portrait frame in D&D Beyond. Yeah, well, I mean, it's this portrait, but I did, one of the frames from D&D Beyond, the round ones, and I thought
no, it doesn't pull the frame from D&D Beyond. These frames are actually the frames from Hero Forge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's why I do them, because they look pretty in here.
Yeah. They do look cool.
Sorry, now you just reminded me that I have
don't
to
worry about it later, though.
Oh, darn it, Lulu! I overwrote I didn't change your character picture. I'm gonna have to change it back. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw it change in real time. I'm like, huh.
You're like, what's that? That was the one that I made for you, not the one that's actually you.
I'll grab that and put it into D&D Beyond once you re-upload it, or if you can give me the link to it.
Actually,
that way, when you import it, won't.
Oh, I can do it too, because you're in my campaign, so I can change it. I'll just change it. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah. Does anybody else want to? So we established Max is from Adjoa, which is Midderland. Anybody else have a preference? Want to talk about their character and where they think, just out of the vagaries I've given you, where they think they might have come from?
Well, here's the trick. I'm thinking maybe the north. So my character is a Yuan-ti pureblood. She was born into a temple, and her whole goal is to help the temple, usually by helping to raise the children that they're going to kill or murder or turn into whatever they do. They're Yuan-ti. She was kidnapped from that temple when a troop of paladins destroyed it. And one of them was like, no, she's a child. We can't kill her. I'm basically Qui-Gon Jinn. I will train the child. And he kidnaps her in her mind. A few years later, he starts to trust her. He doesn't keep her tied up when he's sleeping, and she kills him. And then there's this moment where she's like, why did I kill him? I know that's been my goal for 3 years, but so she brings him back to life and, pours a potion down his throat. After that, when she came of age, an archdruid found her and is like, hey, you have a auntie with you, and she's crazy, and she's setting things on fire because she's a wildfire druid. I'm taking this one, bye. And that's where she came from. So really, anywhere there could be a auntie temple and a paladin, she could be from.
So I'm thinking because Kadir or Krudiria would actually work for you. Most of the religion in the north is based on a god called the Great Leveler.
Oh no!
And he's basically just like they don't really believe in an afterlife. It's like you're dead and you're dead. The Great Leveler has leveled everything. You're back in the mud. So they don't really have a big religion thing. But I could see where the Gurkish Empire is even moving in on had moved in on Kadir. Perhaps that's part of why you were taken from there. Is you were from a temple in Kadir, but then as Kahul and the Gurkish Empire moved out of their area and conquered Kadir, all of those temples were sort of served basically as like, no, you can't have your own religion now. There is only Kahul.
Yeah, and then they come across T, who are literally doing human sacrifices.
Right.
Might have
Well,
sent paladins after him.
there's some weird stuff going on with Kahul that I don't know if he'd have much of a problem with that, but he would try to take your power. Do you know what I mean? He would try
Ooh.
to get you to come to his side of things, and
Gotcha.
dominate you in some way.
And
Oh,
they
I
would
see.
not do that.
I
T would not.
yeah, or you multi-class into warlock.
So I think that would make sense, Kadir. And then maybe after you were taken, you probably spent a lot of time. Like Starrick Land is part of the Union, but because it borders on like the old Empire and the Far Country, that's a good place for people to hide and sort of be out of the mind's eye. So I could see you and the guy who kidnapped you like traveling there for
Yeah,
a
the
while,
paladin.
and then maybe you've like worked your way back into like doing some stuff in Stark Land. In my world, Salt Marsh is in Stark Land as well. So I don't know, like, and maybe that's where you met up with Wynn somehow. Who I don't know that I can totally explain Wynn. Asmo, do you have any ideas?
Well, with Wynn, the way I was looking at her, one day, because she's a forced pixie like most of them, their attitude is normally to keep a distance, observe things, and they just giggle a lot, and they're usually invisible, hard to see and track. But one day, her curiosity got the better of her when she saw a monk meditating in her forest. Now, that monk stayed for over a year without moving, meditating, and it made her grow bolder. And she would eventually come to begin speaking with him. And basically, he told her about their beliefs and ways and everything. And she was curious. So she was invited to the temple to learn, where she basically became a monk. And of course, she had questions of her own, like why she was not like the other pixies. She was more adventurous than wanted to stay in a glade and just have fun. And the sensei, her main monk, told her that was probably part of her path she had to discover. And the only way to find those answers was to head out into the world.
Now, is that her past or her past life?
That's her past.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that fits. And at some point, I think we've sort of said, because there are in the narrative, there is a need for.
And she's
sorry, two of you to sort of know each other at least.
mhm.
And I think we said it made sense for you and Sapphire to somehow have teamed up. We don't have to explain how that is right now. We can get into it later.
Well, since Sapphire's a druid, she has a natural affinity, of course, to the druid being Fae.
Mm-hmm.
So her and Sapphire would probably hit it off really well.
And then
And I'm sure
Sapphire.
Sapphire would notice that compared to other pixies, she's definitely different. Being some pixies, she does like nature, sunshine. She's very, very outspoken for a pixie. She can be very rough at times, and very, I don't want to say condescending, but sharp. And that's because of her lack of interaction with people. She has a chip on her shoulder because to her, all the big people see her as sees her as something being a small, useless irritant to her. So to her, she's always got to prove to the big people that she's a hot mess to deal with, and they don't want to mess with her.
I mean, that would be
Yeah,
incredibly true in this world.
Right. Sapphire knows this. Sapphire accepts her for what she is, but Sapphire's also helping her with customs and, of course, meeting the new people, etc., stuff like that. Because there's not many pixies even those pixies that are monks that can do some damage to a creature much larger than her, and uh, put a surprise on some enemy's face.
Yeah, and Saf would be attracted to that mindset because she's always trying to learn. People are always teaching her. She's trying to overcome that whole emotionless thing and try to interact properly. So she would definitely see that as a teaching opportunity and just basically naturally take to it and be like, okay, we're going into the city. And have you ever had ale before? You should probably have human ale just so you know what it's
Oh,
like.
you know she loves beer and ale. She loves it. If every chance she gets, she wants to go to a bar. She loves the humans' uh, mugs. You know, she doesn't believe in having her acorn cup. She likes the mugs because she can slip her body into the mugs and drink while she relaxes in the beer.
Oh, Jesus, this is awesome. And I actually can't think of a.
Does she get hang?
Sorry, go ahead, Sapphire.
No, I'm just gonna say, does she get like drunk? And can she get drunk? And would she sleep in my hair afterwards until like if we're traveling, just sleep it off in my hair? Is that something
Oh,
she would
most
do?
definitely.
All
Now,
right,
does
this
she
is
get
gonna be
drunk?
great.
A pixie, I'm sure she probably does. You know, it probably takes a little bit more, but being from the pixie line, it just says like she can't be put to sleep magically or charmed. So I presume she can get drunk because she likes beer. But the problem is when she gets drunk, she gets a little
Bully.
too, what do you call it? Punch drunk, bully, right? Challenging, very, very uh, I don't know what the word is, but
Ornery?
she likes bar fights. Honorary, yeah, no, she likes bar fights.
Um,
I can just see my druid sitting there, like, oh, I don't drink, but I'm gonna have a sip of this before I join this fray.
I think I actually really like the dynamic here too, because it's like this sort of socially awkward in canon like race trying to teach somebody who doesn't know anything
Another.
about culture how to not be socially awkward. So like there could be some hilarity there that I'm just like waiting to go. It could be. I think it's gonna be a great. Okay, so I don't know that like maybe we just say that Sapphire like and Wynn just met up in their travels and I don't know. Do you feel like it's really important, Asmo, that you know where you're from? Because I feel like the Pixies kind of like wouldn't even pay attention to like government or anything anyway.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't bother me. Yeah.
Okay.
And my archdruid, the one that mentored my druid, is really into swamps and the sea. So if you wanted to go with your original idea of like, let's have this be a salt marsh type thing,
Okay.
then that's fine by me.
All right. Yeah, you could be from around the areas around Saltmarsh, which is over here in Starkland. But as most people in the Union do, the outskirts of the Union are pretty civilized, more civilized than other places. But if you live in the Union, you at some point end up in Midderland. And because Midderland is basically the seat of power, it was where the Union was born. And specifically, the capital, Adjoa, is basically it's the heart of the empire. It's the city of white towers. It's I don't want to say it's the jewel of the north because it's not in the north, but that kind of thing. Everybody knows it around the world. The Gurkish despise it. The Styrians covet it. So there's a lot of stuff going on there.
So there's something.
Max, what did you want to know about Adjoa?
About Agile, I don't know. I mean, obviously, so the way I see it is my family, mainly my dad. So, being half elf, are elves common there? I mean, like, is it totally unheard of for half elves to be there?
No, it's not at all.
Okay.
Grayson Calder, who I have forced on Eller as his. I don't want to say his idol, but as a person he admires. Grayson Calder is a very well-known wizard, half elf that lives actually in the Tower District. Has a huge mansion there.
Okay.
The elves and dwarves and halflings do not raise an eyebrow across the Union, but anything else can.
Okay. So my mom's elf, my dad's human. My dad comes from a family of merchants, textiles, woodworking, wine, you name it. They've got their hands in like a little bit of everything, right?
Okay.
Uh, and the whole thing was like, training me to be part of the family business and stuff. But being from a wealthy family, a lot of times, your parents get you like music lessons at some point, and Max more or less fell in love with it and starts sneaking out at night to play in taverns, things like that. And then his dad finds out and like gets super pissed. Like, what's my son doing in these, common taverns, blah, blah, blah. And basically ends up throwing him out. But, along the way, during that time when he was doing all that, he met a guy who was a bard who taught him some stuff. So that's where he actually got his kind of bardic skills from. And now he's kind of out on his own and having to kind of make a living. He was never good. Like his dad was probably in with some maybe seedier people, he's a kind of maybe more or less a shady businessman. He was very shrewd.
Oh,
And
all right.
that just wasn't, not that he was like in the mob, but he probably had like dealings with them if the money was right. Like he was influential enough and big enough that there's probably some corruption there.
Yeah,
So
he probably had dealings with the Hand of Shadows.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Max just did not.
Uh-oh.
Max just didn't have the stomach for that, right? That was not Max's thing. He is a gentle guy. He's he was not cut out for it at all. Never wanted that life, but it's his birthright. And when his dad finds out, his dad gets pissed, and they have a big falling out, and Max leaves. So now Max is basically like wandering around the city going, shit, I don't have, like, I have, a little bit of gold that I had saved up, and that's about it. I was walking around like 20 gold in his pocket going, what the fuck do I do now?
Okay, so that's a good, I was trying to figure out, I'm listening to your story, I'm like, okay, what would make Max want to go on an adventure or look at a
necessity.
Yeah.
Necessity. Because he does, like, he's like kind of the guy who like read books and he's like, oh, that sounds so cool, I want to do that. And then like the reality, the story of the fighting the dragon sounds a lot cooler than actually fighting the dragon. So he's not the bravest guy. He's got this whole thing about germs and dirt, and like, even though he was playing in taverns, he was playing in nicer taverns. Like, the owners know his dad. They're like, sure, you can play here. We won't tell your dad, blah, blah, blah. Like, Max is a nice kid. He's weird. He's a little misunderstood, whatever, And he's a decent musician. The patrons like him, so they let him play. They didn't say anything to the dad. But, eventually shit hit the fan. So now Max is like, what the fuck do I do? And like, the idea of like, he wants to go stay like at an inn, and realizes like, I can only stay at this inn for like 3 nights before I am fucking broke. So,
well, he's going to be probably stuck at an inn that he normally wouldn't want to be at too, right?
Exactly. And he freaks out about it. He's like, oh my god, this place is so disgusting, it's so dirty, oh my god, like,
I know,
can I
the
get
exact
fresh
inn he's
sheets?
staying at.
And yeah, they're like, he's like, I don't think you changed the sheets. And they're like, you're lucky you got sheets. And he's like, oh geez, oh god, oh no. So yeah, it's he really needs some friends right about now. Like, he does not know what he's going to do. He's alone, he's scared, and he's like never had to be on his own before.
So I feel like, Max,
So-
you've made it easy. You already live in Adjoy, you need money. Awesome. That's like your motivation.
I'm like, okay, I need to eat. Like, yeah, sure. But I didn't take the entertainer background, right? So it's not, I can't do the whole play for room and board kind of thing. Like I'm playing for the money, and if I make enough money, I can eat and sleep.
Right.
So, I don't have that background fee. I took the failed merchant thing instead because it fit me so much better. And I didn't want to be, the typical bard with the entertainer background.
No, I love that. I love that. I love when people consciously make the choice based on how they want to play the character.
Yeah. So this just fit the character better. So, anyways, yeah, he's just now in this situation. So he's gonna be probably staying at a shitty place, playing, and like where he used to get like decent tips from people, like they would give him money and like at least silver. He's now maybe gets like a couple of copper, and he's like, I'll have that stale bread and some water, please, and like sleeping in like a bug-ridden straw bed, and things are just not going good for him. He's got like
he's at the
2 sets of clothes. Yeah, like when you see him, he'll have like he has these nice clothes on, but they're getting a little dirty. It's like he tries to carry himself with this air, but he's not like the spoiled rich kid. He's not that cat. He's not that guy at all. But he also came from money, so he doesn't know what He's just this misunderstood nerd, kinda.
All right, so Max, we've got in Adwa, Elarus, and I don't know if I'm saying that right. Am I saying the name right?
Eliaris.
Okay. Eliaris is, I imagine anyway, and we can totally change this if it's not your bag. You've heard that Grayson Calder was going to be making a speech, and that he was having a big auction. Where he was auctioning off some of his arcane collection, and you just decided, hey, I don't usually like to go into these big cities. It kind of makes me nervous, but for Grayson Calder, I'll check it out because like I've heard such great things about this guy, and he's so awesome. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, I was actually just reading over some of the notes you put in my character. Yeah, I can.
I gave you minimal notes because I think I want to leave wiggle room for you to make up stuff about Grayson Calder if you want to.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like how you kept some of the core elements there, as far as like his views about fairness and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Like that's important.
And
I think the rest is pretty flexible.
Yeah, and you all would know this guy too if his name came up. He's like really well respected. Max, your family probably had him over at parties at some point. I don't
the
know
gold schlongs.
Yeah, I don't know if Sapphire.
God.
If
the gold schlong of the Castle District gold schlongs.
Yeah. Sorry, Tower District.
Tower District gold schlong. Sorry.
No, it was my fault. I think I said Castle the first time.
Yeah, you did.
What's his name again? The person I'm coming out of hiding for?
Grayson Calder.
Grayson Calder.
And I'd imagine.
And what is?
Sorry, go ahead.
Like what does he do? Like what is his role? Like what is he?
He's really
wizard
rich.
Or sorcerer. Like
he's a wizard. He's mostly known as an expert in arcane items. And so he's sort of like a magic art dealer, so to speak, but like he's one of those guys that like would be on the cover of like This World's People magazine all the time as like philanthropist of the year, and like everybody loves this guy. Like I shouldn't say everybody, but there are very few people that don't like Grayson Calder. He's done a lot of great things for the community.
Arcane nobility.
Yeah, well, just even with his money, and he's just really well respected by like. There isn't really a wizarding guild in this world, because like magic is sort of just in recent years become more of a thing, and it hasn't been as much with the human population. It's been more, the Duridian Alliance. Magic has always sort of been around, but like they keep themselves sort of closed off. But the Magi was the last time magic was really huge in the rest of the world. So
Where was that?
So I got a question for you in that context.
Mm-hmm.
Just hearing you describe Grayson the way he would be, knowing what I know of El Yaris as far as his character and personality trait, I can understand why he would be intrigued by him, by Grayson.
Hmm.
At the same time, I think El Yaris would be very intrigued in sort of a suspicious investigatory way.
That's totally
Like,
fine.
what is this person? You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
because El Yaris is very much like, he comes from like what he considers the real world. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
the salt of the earth, and he might view Grayson as very intriguing, interesting, and fascinating, but at the same time with a little bit of mistrust.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would
You know,
expect
like,
you to
this is
treat
bad.
everybody with mistrust, but
Right.
yeah, no, that plays totally fine. I think that originally the narrative had like um, your person was I have a pre-canned character for him was like younger and very like rose-colored glasses on the guy, but like I don't think we have to do it that way. I'm cool with you playing it the way you're playing it. Um,
Oh, okay, yeah, because El Yara says the way he's designed, he's actually an older
Yep.
person.
Yeah. Right. And I'm cool with that. It's not going to ruin anything if you put your own spin on it, essentially.
Okay, cool.
And I think that Win and Sapphire are just traveling around. Win's trying the beer, and they might have been looking for work, but they're more into just adventuring and going around and trying out life. Does that jive for you guys, or?
Yeah. So when do we what this wharfs? Do we come in by boat or something
The way
to this place?
I mean, it could be.
Me and Win.
You could come in by boat. When the story starts, I don't want to give it away, but you'll already have been here. Will already have traveled here, so you won't be like you'll be someplace already. I don't want. Sorry, I don't want to give it away.
Fair enough.
But
So
you'll
we're
already.
already here. I mean, we okay, because okay.
Did you have something else in mind?
No, no. I was wondering. I mean, I'm listening to the story and what's bringing us together, but I was gonna figure that if me and Sapphire obviously came here, did we come by boat to get to this island land, or
Oh yeah,
Mine
did we walk
teleported.
here?
no. I think I mean
No.
you definitely came by boat. There are a lot
Okay.
of boats going from Midland to Saltmarsh.
Okay.
Uh,
Because what I would have done as Win, as we step off the boat, because Win is resting in Sapphire's hair, she'd probably stretch and yawn and then look around, and then she'd say to Sapphire, "Yo, Sapphire, where the hell are we?"
Well, would Sapphire know though?
Sapphire, did you just step on a duck?
I mean,
A
you'd know
duck.
that you were going to Adjoa because Adjoa is like, if you're leaving Saltmarsh, if you're leaving Starkland, you're leaving via Saltmarsh because that's basically their best port. They're trying to develop it. It's not big yet, but they've been trying to develop it. And you would make your way to Adjoa, because that's just like
Gotcha.
the big route.
Yeah,
I
that's where you go.
Yeah, I suppose you. I mean,
Right.
if you were like the only other place I could think you might end up is Keln, but Keln is like the industrial area, right? That's where like all the factories that make the textiles and like all that kind of stuff are. So it's sort of like this gray kind of crappy place that like I don't know that you guys would choose to go there as your first
Wow.
visit anyway.
Win's pet name for Sapphire is Sappy.
Nice.
I love that you have a pet name already. So when the story starts, I think that like Win and Sapphire, you've probably been in the city for, I don't know, like a week or something. So like your funds aren't totally drained. You're still able to like go out and whoop it up in town. It's getting close though. You probably will need to look for work at some point.
All right.
But I also think that just in hearing about your characters, I feel like they're just the type of characters that are just kind of like looking to live life and have some adventure. Am I off on that or?
No, absolutely right.
Okay.
Her only deal is to explore the world, to meet new people, to see where she fits into it, or what makes her different from all the other type of pixies.
All right. So we've sort of established
Mine,
what. Sorry, go ahead, Sapphire. What?
my druid, she basically just doesn't want to be killed, and if she doesn't develop enough socially and intellectually, then her mentor will kill her. So
Oh, Jesus Christ.
it's so that's kind of her drive.
So she operates out of fear of death.
No, she's a Yanti. It's an agreement to her. It's if you're going to be a druid, you're going to do it right. If you're going to be a Yanti, you're going to do it right. I can't have you going around this world as an uneducated mess. And I know you don't see yourself that way, but that's what you are. So I really need you to pay attention. And if you don't, I'm going to find you and I will end that threat.
I'll be interested to see as we go on in this.
Oh, Sappy, don't be so droll.
That's what I was gonna say. If like I can see like slowly like Win telling her like that's kind of dumb. You shouldn't do that. Like I don't know. I think it's gonna be an interesting play.
So, like, I got an interesting twist on that.
Okay.
Part of LDR's backstory. I don't know if you remember me telling you this, but he actually raised a human child who was part of a village that was basically annihilated from a raid, like in a different story. And he saved this child, and basically he was a foster parent to this child. He raised a human as a druid, and that's who later became Werner, who I was telling you about. So he would have kind of a soft spot probably for Sapphire, being a druid.
Okay.
As a younger druid, because he's this older person who he foster raised another human being as a druid. So he would probably naturally gravitate towards being the protector.
And he's basically that paladin that raised her.
Oh man, there's gonna be a lot of like he's gonna feel really protective. Sapphire is gonna be like, I thought I already killed you.
I think it would resonate. I think it would really resonate because Sapphire would probably remind him a lot about like Werner as a child, like just growing up and all the things that he had to do to raise a human child and nurture him as a druid and all that sort of stuff. He might see a lot of similarities in Sapphire as a young human being, and he might just be naturally to that relationship.
Well, now Sapphire is not a. I mean, she looks kind of like a human being, but she's Yuan T.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is
still,
help me understand what that means? Like,
do you want to? You can tell him Sapphire.
Yeah. So she's into, well, Yanti are Yanti. Purebloods are created from the Yanti, the like monstrous snake type people, when they need someone to do infiltration or something like that. So first off, she was created. She wasn't born. She was born, but she was born to serve a purpose. She's a thing, and that's how she sees herself and always has. So that's something that she's working under. But she doesn't have emotion. She just doesn't, it's not there. And not in a sociopathic way, but in a, I don't have that, I don't understand it. I am a snake person. So she could cut somebody's face off and it wouldn't really bother her. It would bother her because she understands because of her raising that it's wrong, but it wouldn't haunt her and she wouldn't have to be hardened against it in the same way. So you would probably see her as somebody that's like, oh, this person, she's, how are you doing after that last battle? You're young, you maybe haven't seen a lot, and she'll be like, well, it was kind of annoying that I got this, nick in my bow, but other than that, I'm fine. Like, what do you mean? You killed 5 people.
Right.
But she is a lot driven by process and by standards and by systems. So she would see you as a protector type. She would understand that, recognize it, and lean into it to see what she can get out of it. Is that a mean thing? No, but she doesn't have emotion, so her logic drives her. What can I get from this
Right.
person? What can they give me? What
So-
can I learn from them?
It's a lot like a Kirk Spock relationship, except Kirk is the dad, like the older. Like, I've been through this before with another living being, but you're very different.
I was
than
gonna
that
say
person.
that, like, I think of Yuan-Ti as like not Spock, because Spock was
Yeah,
part
it was-
human, so he still felt emotion, but like
Hey,
other Vulcans.
But I mean, like,
yeah,
the bird's eye view of the relationship,
right.
kind of like,
Yeah.
I could see, like how that could come into play, where El Yaris would be like, "What is up with this chick? Like, are you doing this? This is not like, you need to learn the ways of fairness and all that kind of stuff, and honor and blah blah blah." And she'd probably be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
I actually
reaction-
I missed a message from Dax, and he was saying we're on a busy server, and that if I stop and restart, he'll move us to a less busy. But that was like 20 minutes ago, so I don't know. I just messaged him. So just be aware I might shut things off.
Still
when you're back
applies.
on. Yeah.
And that also makes room for someone else. So
I think that could make for a pretty interesting relationship, though, like dynamically.
yeah,
in the
and,
game.
and her reaction would be, I'm only going to know this person for a month or two, so why wouldn't I learn their ways and try it? And so it could be a point where he's like teaching her about honor, and then she just kills somebody. He's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Well, I know what it is. I just wasn't practicing it right then. I mean, I don't have.
Right?
I don't
Yeah,
have,
there
I
could
can-
be
yeah,
sort
if
of
you
an
tell
element
her-
of a aloofness.
yeah,
El
and
Yaris
she's,
gets
if
kind of
you
frustrated with.
yeah. And if you agree with her and she agrees with you that killing people is bad, then she's not going to do it. She won't just betray you, but she will not always put 2 and 2 together. And she'll sometimes slip out of things and forget her way.
So
Wynn is just very brash and open. She'll say what's on her mind. It's not out of meanness. It's just her character, the way she is, and she is curious. So I mean, like with her and Sapphire, for instance, I can give you an instance where this is what she would ask Sapphire. Yo, Sapphire, I noticed that mortals every month tend to lose their common sense and become real bitchy. Does that happen to Yantis too?
Fortunately not.
So she's learning, but that's just it's natural. I mean, she doesn't see any harm or wrong in what she's asking. It may not be
Yeah.
Socially
Yeah.
awkward
Right.
kind of deal.
right.
Yeah.
Well, is it
Oh,
even socially
shit.
awkward though? Because socially awkward is socially awkward. This is just a lack of customs. This is like going over to France and taking a shower. People are like, whoa, 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 hold on.
You just took
You
one
don't-
of those 3 days ago. You don't need another one.
That's pretty cool, though.
Oh,
I mean,
that
the
was mean, but-
conflict in personalities, or the contrast in personalities, actually makes for an interesting dynamic.
we can
Yeah.
keep talking, but I am gonna stop and restart the server so that
Oh, I'm not even at my computer, so you go right
Oh,
ahead.
alright.
Oh, boy.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I gotta do a couple things.
That's pretty cool. It's exciting to hear the contrasts in the characters. That should be interesting.
Yeah, I think
Seriously.
that
Oh,
also
Wynn's going to be a lot of fun.
I think that Eliaris, sorry, I'm constantly gonna screw that up, by the way.
Just go. It's just El
Ellie.
Yaris. El Yaris.
Eliaris.
Just El Yaris.
El
Think of the letter
Yaris.
L.
Think of
El
L.
Yaris.
Yeah,
Like
and then
El
Russ.
Cid.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
El Yaris.
Hang on. To
Or L,
restart.
just say L. It's fine.
Yeah, I think that in my head too, even though Max is not young, I think he's emotionally young. Would that make sense?
Actually, how old is Max? I should probably change his age. For
Yeah, you
this.
put 142.
Yeah, that really doesn't work for this
Oh,
because
shit.
because his dad is human, so
Okay.
he's gonna be more like he's gonna be young.
Okay.
He's gonna be like, you know what? Let's shit, man, because that I mean, 30 as a half elf. I don't even know if how is that old for? Is that even like mature yet for a half elf?
30 for a half elf. That's
Yeah,
like
they
a
have human.
freaking barely. That's like a toddler, basically.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Right,
Yeah, man.
like his dad would be dead by the time like he's even like a teenager.
He's like a preteen. He's basically a preteen at that age.
I'm used to that. I have a guy playing a 13-year-old human in my other game.
Yeah,
All right, sorry, server's going to be back up.
Oh man.
What if he was a stepson?
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense for me.
Like adopted stepson, right? Like the father took like he was already young. Like mom's former husband had passed away, and or what maybe Bill. Let me think here. Yeah, shit. I like stepson. Let's do stepson.
All
So
right.
mom's former husband had passed away. Max came, like she married Max's stepdad when he was like, Max was maybe like 40, so he was like teenager.
Yep.
And now he's like, let's say in his 60s.
Okay. See, and that to me plays well with L. Sorry. Because he would
No,
probably
that's fine. That's
also
perfect,
see
actually.
you
That's
as
perfect.
like a project and like the
Yeah.
son that he raised, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, like
I think for L, that would come like gradually though. Like it wouldn't be right away. I think he would like sort of like slowly
Oh well,
like,
no, I mean,
adopt into that.
I get the impression that everybody's gonna not like Max right away, and then
it's
he'll grow
not that
on you.
Max is a bad guy. Max is just annoying.
Yeah, no, yeah, right.
It's like trying to be friends. It's like trying to it's trying to be friends with Steve Urkel.
Right.
If any of you are old enough to know who that is. It's not that
I mean, is he as attractive as Steve Urkel? That's the question.
He's like, he's like Stefan, but he looks like Stefan, but he acts like Steve.
So here's a question. Since we're on the topic of like personalities and stuff, just for the sense of like, not to be weird about it, but like the psychology of everything, and not to get like overly complex, but it's like 30,000 foot view, like bird's eye view. If you all had to identify your characters as, an sort of empath person, like an empathetic person versus, the counter to that, how would you describe it? Like I would say Elyaris, being with his background and how in tune he is with nature and all that kind of stuff, he would probably be more of the empath type person. So he would grow more emotionally attached to all of you over time. Like he would grow deeply, deeply emotionally attached to you.
Yeah,
How would you characterize your characters?
Mine's a mama's boy. He loves his mommy. You guys are gonna love this. Until the first time I opened my mouth, you were gonna love this.
But he's probably like the extroverted, self-centered mama's boy type.
No, you know what? Actually, he's pretty introverted unless he's performing. It's the only time he's comfortable. Like,
Okay.
like he also got picked on a lot, right? Like he would try to play with the other kids and they'd pick on him. So he got very good at talking his way out of shit or just lying about something.
Okay.
So like he can definitely talk his way out of a situation or lie his way out of a situation because he could not fight his way out of a situation. So
Gotcha.
those were his only choices. So but
Very cerebral,
yes,
like.
yeah. He's like,
Okay.
you shouldn't beat me up because that guard over there, yeah, he's my bodyguard, so you should probably just walk away now. And
Yeah.
he has expertise in persuasion and deception. So
It's actually pretty cool. That's actually pretty
Yeah.
cool.
so
He's like
but
the
like
teenage.
yeah, when we get into a fight, like first move is gonna be dive under the table and like his vicious mockery is gonna be like, like if a troll burst into the room, he would dive under the table and be like, "Oh my god, it's got boils like Aunt Betty." That would be his vicious mockery.
Oh, nice. But he'd be the smart person in the group, though. Like he'd be the one that'd be like,
Yeah.
"Yo, let's try this."
You guys would be like, "Quick, Max, get my back." You'd be like, "Max, where the fuck did he go?"
He's like the teenage Bill Gates of the group.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly.
That makes sense. Cool. What about the rest of you guys? I'm only asking because this kind of stuff interests me. Like I really, I love the idea of like dynamics,
This is really
like
interesting
character
to me
dynamics
too.
between
So
people.
yeah, I insist. Answer as your referee.
I'll only
no, like I
answer
said,
if Plague asks the question.
Who asked the question? Oh, Plague
If
asked.
Plague asks, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's fair. That's actually pretty fair because he is the
Yeah.
DM, so it's relevant to the narrative that he's trying to.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
I'm embellishing on my appreciation for the psychology. So, but for sure should make the call. Like,
no. Yeah, no. I think that we can safely say Sapphire is not empathetic at all because she doesn't experience
she's
emotion.
But she's also got systems, right? She's got controls. She's got. She was basically taught by a Yanti who's like been doing this for 60 years, how to approximate that. So like she can see somebody crying and she doesn't understand it, but she knows that they're sad. And are there any ugly thoughts you want to share? You can tell me them and go ahead and lie to me if you want to. I'm not going to be upset. How can I help? Do you want food?
now is that in the sort of psychopathic way, or is that more like in the way of
It
like?
sounds psychopathic to
Spock
me. Yeah.
I mean, like, well, but remember Spock
just
though,
all-
is very, very different than like psychopathic. Some of the most emotional things that ever happened in Star Trek were because of Spock. You know what I mean? Like if you think
Well,
about
there's also
it wasn't
psychopath
psychopathic.
versus sociopath. And then you've got to remember, how else would she ever do that? I mean, what's the alternative?
Yeah.
If we ran into
So
aliens,
how do you see Sapphire though? Is that in that context? Like how do you see?
No,
her
that's how.
psychology in that? Okay.
Yeah, she just understands different cues and she takes them and tries to work with them. And she understands that there are some things that people don't necessarily want to do what they need to do. And she'll try to help them do that. Why? Because she needs to get better at it. Because there could be a time where her life or someone else's life or the mission or some goal or a forest or nature itself relies on her being able to work with other beings. So if she's going to be a druid, which she is, and she's going to make her mentors proud, which she kind of wants to, then she's got to learn how to interact with people, learn how to comfort them, and how to understand when they're upset or angry or happy, how to partake in that. Like, for example, she's not going to drink with the pixie, but she's going to let the pixie sleep in her hair and vomit in it every so often. Does she care? No,
Yeah.
it's something that little creature needs, and she's learning about the little creature, and the little creature's learning too, and she's got somebody to bounce things off of, and I assume that they get along and they have a lot in common with nature, and they leave a town, and there's a little bit of bittersweet for the pixie because she misses the ale, but the auntie can carry a bunch of ale, in comparison.
I just keep picturing this pixie like the biker pixies from Onward. Like that's all I keep picturing.
I did.
Probably because I still have the Pixie Barbarian still in my mind.
I did try to
But
like
more
scale the
specifically,
token really tiny.
though, I feel like I didn't fully answer. But is there anything I left out? It's hard to answer the emotional psychology when there isn't emotional.
Yeah.
Right, because we haven't engaged in the story yet. I like I said before, I was just embellishing on the psychological potential of it all. So yeah, no, that definitely answers it. I think that's really interesting. Like
More like the
it sounds like
sociopath
it could be a
mode.
pretty cool dynamic. You know
Yeah,
what I
and
mean?
I
Like
think that like
it's cool.
that I think the question is a good one though, because I think it helps you um I mean like so I'm
Informs it
very
informs decisions.
yeah,
It informs decisions.
I'm very improv. I'm a real improv type when I'm doing role playing. But
Mhm.
I'd be much better if I would consider all these other things, right?
Yeah, no.
Because you
That's
can't.
why I was asking, because it's kind of like a blueprint. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like a bird's eye view blueprint. So like I know that just for myself, it's a selfish thing. It's just like I have a way to navigate. You know,
What about Win? Do you think that?
that's what I'm curious
Yeah.
about. Win sounds fascinating to me.
I don't know how she'd
What?
react to the rest of the group too. To tell you the truth.
Well, she's with Sapphire, so she does have a bond, or at least a trust with Sapphire. And if Sapphire is easy around the people, she'll pick that up. But like anything else, she's going to be curious about the group, who they are, what they are, everything about them. And I'm sure she'll ask him questions that might seem a little off, but that's just her nature. But I think they'll come to realize that she would be most valued member of the party.
What is the spine of Win? Like what's her through line? What's her through story? Like you know what I mean when I say that? Like what is the thing that drives her? Like why is she here? Like what is she doing?
She is not happy just being a pixie.
Okay.
She doesn't want to be able to giggle, laugh, play, uh, to be a picture. She wants to know what's out there. She wants to meet. She wants to see bad or good, even at some detriment to herself, what is out there. Most pixies are very shy, keep away, and generally you don't see them. But she doesn't feel that way. She feels that for some reason she doesn't have that same what do you want to call it? Social ness that
Contract,
pixies
just
do.
like the Pixie social contract kind of deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's almost totally opposite where they would stay away and peek. She actually wants to go out in the open and meet, or explore and go beyond just a pixie hollow, so to speak.
Let me ask you this question. Again, forgive the psychology banter, but it matters. Um, so Win, is she driven? Is she directed more by rebellion or curiosity? If you had to choose between the two words, which one would you choose? The context of her nature as a pixie.
As a pixie, yes, and they are
As a
curious
pixie.
creatures. But
Right.
it's
So
not
is she more driven
rebellion.
by rebellion or is she more driven by curiosity?
It. Sorry. It seems to.
What
I
is
mean,
driving
just
her?
just by listening though, it seems like it's not just that. It's also
To adventure.
it's almost
She doesn't want to be stuck
respect too,
where
though,
she's
isn't it?
at.
Is it also respect, Win? Like, you really don't like the big people. You want to show the big people that you can do all the crap that they can do.
That they can do. Yeah, she's very much um,
Pride. Like that.
pride. Yeah, because
Okay.
most people see
That's good
pixies
to know.
as, well, useless playthings or a nuisance that can't do much.
She's out to prove something then.
Yeah.
Pride. Pride. Okay, there's the answer. Pride.
I mean, I would even go so far as to say, like, there are probably pixies in the Deridian Alliance, and they probably don't even have representation in the democratic government there, whereas all the other races do. Right? I'll make that call. That's now canon. Bing.
There you go.
Cool.
You get why I'm asking these questions, though, right?
Oh,
'Cause
I,
of,
Yeah.
I get why you're asking. I think it's great. You're going much deeper.
Totally matters.
It's awesome.
Well, I know, and I apologize, but like when you throw out something in the narrative, and it's like we have to make a complicated decision, sometimes it's helpful to be able to fall back on those quote unquote truths, right? Because
Yeah,
it's like,
like,
oh,
which one
okay,
of
this
you
would
are
be
you
honest
kill?
about.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
No, this is excellent. Yeah, I mean, I think we're in a good place that we'll be able to get off running right away next session. Are there any other questions you guys have for each other or about the world? I may have been vague about something.
How would my druid make money is a question. I mean that doesn't have to be answered here. I can PM that to you, but I figured it'd be good to figure out kind of what the economy is like. Is it just a standard economy, or
What do
is
you
it
mean
highly
by-
specialized?
What do you mean by standard?
Are there like is it just a medieval type economy with some magic sellers, or is it like Eberron where, you know, two out of three buildings are magically constructed and
Oh,
you can buy a
no.
potion
Yeah.
anywhere if you have the money?
No, it's most so. So I will say that there are a lot of parts of Adua that were built by magic, but that's just because Baez was key in forming this union hundreds of years ago. But really, there's like only one. Actually, I can kind of get into that because Max would know about this stuff anyway, so I can kind of jump the gun and tell you a little bit about some of the areas in the city. Yeah, I mean, you can see them labeled here. Tower District, rich people live there. The Agroint is the seat of the government. The Upper City has some government buildings, as well as some prominent banking guilds. The Mercer's Guild, which is like a trade guild, and a law firm that's pretty renowned throughout the area. The markets is all stores. Pretty easy. The wharfs is where all the stuff comes in from the wharf, so it's a lot of like, storage buildings and like not much. Nobody really lives in the wharfs. The living areas in Adua are mostly Tower District, the Outer City, and the Dredge. And the Outer City, that area is mostly workers for the few factories that are actually in Adua proper. And the Dredge is really like one of those places where you don't want to walk around there at night.
I really like that name. I got that from the name right away. I'm like, the Dredge. That's like the only thing you could call it to be more poignant would be the dregs.
Yeah,
That's great. I'm gonna steal
Is that where I'm staying right now?
No, you're very close though. You're like right in this area, Max, in a place called the Sunken Inn and Tavern, and it's where a lot of the drunken sailors will roll in and spend the night.
I gotta log back in.
Sorry. Yeah, you can't. You can't see. It's near the coast in the markets actually, but close to the wall where the Dredge is. There really aren't any places to stay in the Dredge, unless you're a guest of the Hand of Shadows, and you don't want to stay with them because you're not really a guest.
I use the term guest lightly.
Yeah. Well, the head
like
of their group is called Gorgoth Godkiller, so you don't. Doesn't sound like a guy you probably want to make friends with.
No, does not.
Yeah. So the markets you were asking about, like, I can fill you in a little bit about the markets too, and I am toggling to some stuff, but we can also do this again. Here are the shops and the markets for those of you that can see the screen right now. It looks like Asmo, Aragoth, and Lulu are in. There's a few kind of stores in here that I don't know that you would
I
know.
don't see anything yet.
You don't see anything yet? Okay, hang on.
No, I just see
Yeah.
the map.
Hang on.
I see the map,
Activate.
but yeah.
Yep,
Oh,
got
there
it.
it goes.
I didn't activate you.
Oh yeah,
Sorry.
I don't see a map
There you
actually.
go.
There we
I
go.
refreshed.
Markets.
Yeah, so the markets are like this area, and I'm not listing all of the shops that are here. We could like sprinkle in some shops if you guys find something you need that I'm not offering.
I need a new hat.
Oh, well then you, my friend, should go see Herb the Hatter.
Ah,
Where's the red light district?
There's one gentleman's club in town. It happens to be in the wharfs, and it's called the Silk. And I shouldn't call it a gentleman's club, gentle person's club. They cater to all clientele. The places of note here, and I'll give you the ones that I think that Max would know about. He'd definitely know about the Sizzler. It's like an exotic restaurant where they specialize in rare kinds of meat. They will also buy rare meat from you, so there's that too. He would know Herb the Hatters as well, and he would tell you that Herb the Half Elf, he makes exquisitely beautiful hats. They're so uncomfortable, nobody buys them.
Wow.
I can't even afford them right now. So
That's hilarious.
The only
I
magic...
think
Sorry, go ahead.
I think a hat purchase is in my druid's future. She doesn't know what a hat is, so she'll just assume it's always that uncomfortable.
Thank you for the heads up. I'll whip something together. Nobody's ever wanted to go to Herb the Hatters before. When I've described it, they've all been like, "Yeah, that sounds like just a one-off, one line." But I've always been hoping somebody would go there.
I just need something kind of with a big brim and a feather.
You will know a tavern and an inn. One is the one you're staying at, which is the Sunken Inn and Tavern, which is, like I said, it's mostly sailors and professional drunks that go there. And
crap.
it's run by...
You know what's funny? I did not say I needed a hat because I saw Herb the Hatters. I legit wanted to buy a hat. I thought you were joking when you said Herb the Hatter, and I just saw it on the map. I'm like, oh shit, that's funny.
Your current Max, the man who runs the inn, is a human. He's a former fisherman, and his name is Woolly Fish Fingers. And just to add to the flavor for you, the whole inn constantly smells like low tide. And I think, well, you might know about the Lotto Grotto. I don't think you would have ever maybe ventured there. But you would know that it's a store that sells magical items, and that the guy that runs it is really weird.
Have you ever seen the movie Big with Tom Hanks?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember when the first night he spends at the hotel and he he's all scared and he's like crawls up in the fetal position and starts crying? That's Max like right now. That's basically what his life is at this moment.
The other tavern and I'm hoping maybe you're taking some notes, but again I can go over some of this again too. The other tavern that you know that's pretty well respected is one called the Stone. It doesn't draw a lot of people in from your level of the city. You know, not many people from the Tower District like deign to like wander over there, but it's a very well respected, well run, clean establishment. It's run by a lady named Shy West, but she is a former adventurer and she came from the north. So there are a lot of Northmen that will hang out there when they're in Adua, which isn't super frequent. It's kind of rare for a Northman to be around. They always draw attention, but if they're there, they're at the stone. So the other stores you will have to find out about when you wander into them. So yeah. What else can I tell you guys?
The Northmen, I remember they're similar to Goliath. Do they also have the Goliath? As far as I understand it, Goliaths have this kind of fairness thing. Like they're very fair reasoners, and like they'd make good kings, good leaders. Is that intact? Because my Druidess would, she'd be like, yeah, these people are logical.
Yeah, so the North has a really interesting history. It's actually the most interesting, and I'm really surprised that the first things I've written haven't been campaigns in the North because they're like my favorite characters. They definitely have a certain amount of fairness. They're a share and share alike society. There's not really much greed there. However, they were until this war with the previous 10 years before this, or sorry, if you go 10 years backwards, I should say, that there was like hundreds of years or where the North was basically just a bunch of clans run by war chiefs, essentially, and they were always just fighting each other. And let me know if I'm not answering your question too, by the way, Sapphire. I'm just
No, you are. I have a follow-up question as well, but it's kind of creepy, so I might not ask it.
All right.
But I kind of have to at this point.
Yeah. Go ahead, and I'll go. I can go on, but why don't you ask your question?
So I've gotten some negative feedback from about this over my time, but one of my rangers, and I'm considering adapting it for my druids, one of their strategies for maintaining the wilderness is to injure animals like yetis who are territorial.
Mm-hmm.
So they teach a yeti basically not to attack people because they'll cut off your hand, your yeti hand, or burn you or whatnot. And then that yeti is territorial, it keeps the other yetis away. So basically, one of the things my druid might consider is going around injuring animals to teach them not to come near to society. Basically, any of them who are brave enough to attack a person, she changes that. Instead of killing them, she leaves them alive, but traumatized of people, at least human looking people. How would the Goliaths, not the Goliaths, but how would the Northmen see that? Would they say this is a way of minimizing death, or would they say no, just kill them all? That's worse than killing them. Just kill them.
So that is an interesting question. I think that throughout most of the North, the only reason they would see to kill an animal is if it's rabid and going to hurt someone, or if they need to eat. So I don't know, but they're also the type of people who kind of say, your business is your business, my business is my business. They're like that type of folk.
Okay, good. Okay, I think that answered my question. I was like, what direction do they go in with that? And that makes more sense. They're like kind of, yeah. They're little tribes. They're little Viking like collection of, yeah.
Yeah, and
Gotcha.
And the way their tribes will work is they'll all have somebody they call a chief, and the next level down from that will be something they call name men, and those will be people who have like done like something to earn themselves a name in battle. So they'll, for instance, one of the chiefs is Dogman, and that was his name that he earned. That wasn't his like actual name. And I mentioned it in the video. There's a dude who fought for Bethad, whose his name is the Bloody Nine. That's his named name. And then they'll have a layer down from that will be, they call it their Carls, and those will be like good warriors that are like trained warriors ready for fighting, that are sort of part of the group. And then everything after that is sort of like, hey, we're having a battle. Farmers who live near us, come and fight with us, essentially. And a lot of the Carls will also be like farmers when they're not warring, but like I mean, for the longest time, it's either been wars with each other or wars with the Union. So,
Gotcha.
until
Other
this
than
guy
that,
Bethard came and united them, sort of against their will, and pitted them against the Union.
I kind of like that sort of against their will. That has feet. I'm going to look forward to learning more about that.
Mhm.
That's kind of how my druids worked. Or like they give you a choice, but it's not a good one. You get to make the choice, but it's which hand. That's all.
Well, I mean, so
I think that'll make a.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, for Sapphire, I think that will make an interesting dynamic between Elyaris and Sapphire as well. When that,
Mhm.
if and when that situation arises, because Elyaris is very much, very much a nature person, right? So he would be awfully curious about what Sapphire, what her thinking is about this whole territorial thing, and might try to interject her beliefs about that. You know what I mean? Or agree.
Or agree, one of the
Situations
two.
can tell.
It
Right.
depends also on, how truly territorial is the creature. Is it a proven method? Is it permanent disfiguration? Do they have emotion? Can they, are they just animals or? I mean,
Yeah, the
animals
question
have
of
emotion, but
sentientness. Yeah,
yeah, same,
sentientness.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I think again it leads to some pretty interesting dynamics, probably.
yeah. But at the same time, if Yeti are killing people who are traveling and eating them and attacking caravans, do you just kill that Yeti so that the next one can come down off of the mountain? Or do you teach that one not to attack people and it will keep the others away and it will tell others the rules?
Right. And I think that's the kind of thing that would make an interesting dynamic because it's like, well, wait a minute, who's the intruder and who's not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, we made a road
Elyaris
and
and
we've been
Sapphire.
using the road for a long time.
Right, right. No, I get it. That's what I'm saying. That's why I think it makes interesting story. That's why I think it makes interesting story, depending on the circumstance. It's whatever. We don't need to get all into it, but I mean, it could be interesting.
Yeah.
An interesting dynamic.
So, what other questions do you guys have for me?
None, man.
Um,
You're very
yeah.
thorough.
I'll
Yeah.
message a bunch of questions. But I do want to say if it comes to a week where you're like, oh no, I don't want to run the session tonight. I hate these people. Then just let me know. And I've got a one shot ready that I need to test.
All right.
And it's like totally out. It's a lighthouse. It's the same one Win ran yesterday.
Okay.
But I converted it to Foundry, so I need to test it out with the group. My druid can be there, but she will just be, oh, I've got to stay on the boat because the boat's gonna crash if I'm not here because I can help with the waves. I'm a druid, and then you guys
Oh
can be the
shit.
ones to go onto the island and fix it. So I'm ready with that at any time. So just let me know.
Okay, I definitely will, because there is undoubtedly going to be a time where like I can't make it, or like we
You just want to
can't
play.
find a session time or whatever. Yeah. Oh yeah. Or I just
Yeah.
want to play. All right. So I will tell you.
Schedule sounds good though. Honestly.
You will all be. I can tell. Win and Sapphire will be starting the story in the. I think in the dredge. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Just to let you know. And the rest of you, I think, will probably be in the markets at the time when things happen. So when we start, we'll start with Sapphire and Win will have a portion, and then we'll do a portion with both you guys, and then we'll bring us all together. So,
Yay!
cool. This was great.
Yeah.
And I can't
Thank
wait
Thank
to
you for
start the story.
doing it, man.
By the way, I took down some names of other locations you had mentioned of places that I feel like I might have been before. Like
Okay.
you had mentioned, like Laketon as like a popular place for nobles to get away. So I feel like
Oh yeah.
Dad's got a little summer home in Laketon, and
Oh,
like
definitely.
yeah, wait. So I like if there's any other places like that, and you think like I may have been to, maybe like on trips with my dad to other cities,
Mm.
where he was doing trades or anything like that,
You will have
let
been
me
to
know.
you probably have been to Saltmarsh. You've probably been to Westport, which is in. I'll send you a list. I'll send you a list and a description
Yeah.
of the other places that you've been.
Okay.
Because there are a bunch of like ports around that you probably have some experience in. So like when it comes to like dealing with people from those places, you'd probably
I might know people. My background thing might
exactly.
come in handy in those
Yep.
places.
100%.
Cool. All right.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
really enjoyed like
Yeah.
getting the characters together, building a story, and I really appreciate how much you know about the setting. I felt very confident asking questions and knowing that there was going to be an answer. So I'll try not to push you that hard in the actual games.
No, please
Just like that.
push as hard as you want. And that's the other thing too, guys. If we're
Oh,
playing and like the game isn't going, you need something more, please just message me and let me know because I can do my best. It's either going to be, I mean, the worst thing that can happen is that I say like, "Oh, I don't think that I have the skill to do that." And, we decide, "Okay, well, maybe
or
that
we
character
compromise.
wandered off into the wilderness or something." Um, like I'm not.
Fun.
I don't want to hold you all captive. If there are weeks that you can't show up, um, I will tell you that all of my campaigns that I'm running right now are all sort of crossing paths, and I hadn't decided if I was going to do it with this group or not. But there's like a whole fracturing of worlds thing that goes on in my other campaigns, which helps when people are gone. I just insert another character in their place, and they're their character from another dimension. So, um,
Nice.
so we could do something like that too if there are times where like one of you can't show up, or I can also just push your piece around and just have you do
Yeah.
actions and not talk.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
All right. Cool.
I'm really excited, guys. I think
Thank
this
you,
is going
man.
to go really well.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks, boss.
All right.
Yeah, man.
Bye, guys. Good night.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Talk to you later.